Hi everyone, this is Michelle. In this short video, I want to walk you through the structure of each of our units. Our goals in designing the units this way were threefold. First, we wanted to make sure that our materials are as easy to pick up and use as possible, while at the same time being easy to adapt or jump into in different ways depending on your needs. So, you'll be able to download each unit as a zip file, which includes an editable PowerPoint deck like the one I'm about to talk you through, as well as Word documents corresponding to worksheets or other handouts that students might need along the way. Second, because these units are tying together so many themes in science, data, and civic action, we wanted to give lots of roadmaps for both you and your students about how it all fits together. And third, we wanted to make sure that not just ideas around the content, but also ideas around pedagogy and how to get students connecting and talking to each other is really clear and part of the materials. So to walk you through how we've done this, I'm going to use our second unit in the collection, which is called Exploring Climate Through Data and a Special Place. Let's get started. The very first slide that you'll see following the title for any unit is what we call the teacher at a glance. This provides an overview of the primary learning objectives, guiding questions, materials, and activities for each phase of a unit. Each unit is split into 3 or 4 phases, which correspond to major goals. In this case, having students build a personal connection to climate and the places they'll be studying, using data to dig into the issue of climate around the world, and then writing stories that inspire others to action. You'll notice that each of these phases is color-coded. I'll talk more about that later. The next page is a calendar navigation, which makes it easy to jump to any lesson that you'd like in the unit by just clicking on the box. Once you get into a specific lesson in the unit, slides will be organized in this format. These slides are designed to be projected to students and are all written in English and Spanish, and we'll work on other translations as time allows in our team. Each slide has a title and a brief description of the task. Slides might include screenshots, graphics, or prompts for students to discuss. Others might display worksheets that students will also complete at their desks or on their computers. That's what's going on in the slide here. Whenever there's a worksheet, there will be a link on the slide in the lower left corner that you can click on to download that specific worksheet for printing or turning into a Google Doc that you can have students complete online. In the lower right-hand corner, here, is a navigation bar. So on each slide, you can return to the beginning of the unit by clicking this button, the beginning of the phase by clicking this button, or the beginning of the specific lesson that this activity belongs to by clicking this button. Finally, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see 1 or 2 icons that describe what kinds of participation structures we think work best for this activity. Let's take a closer look at what these icons mean. There are a number of icons that you may see on each slide. One type of icon describes classroom participation structures, such as whether the activity should be done as a whole classroom, in large or what we call table groups of 4 to 8 students, in smaller groups of 2 to 3 students, or if students should do the activity independently. We recommend that as students work through these units, they have dedicated small groups and dedicated table groups made up of 2 or 3 of the small groups. Our design team strongly encourages frequent, fluid movement across these different types of participation structures. This gets students making personal connections and reflecting on their learning, sharing it with one another, and elevating it to become part of the classroom-wide knowledge. Another icon that you'll often see on slides describes how the slides should be used as lesson material. As I mentioned before, some slides correspond to written worksheets. These will have this worksheet icon in the corner. Other slides might project discussion questions or instructions that students are supposed to follow during a given activity, examples of what they might be doing or making, or screenshots from the websites and data analysis tools that they'll be using to make the technical details a little bit easier. Okay, now that you know the basics of the curriculum structure, let's walk through a lesson. We'll start with the very first one in Phase A. Now you'll recall that I mentioned there's color coding for each phase. And one of the reasons we did this is to make it really easy to scroll through the slide deck and find the lessons and phases that you're looking for. Each phase starts with a very darkly colored slide like this, so it's easy to find the phase. At the beginning of each phase, like at the beginning of the unit, you'll find an at-a-glance slide. This time, just like the at-a-glance slide at the beginning of the unit, this slide is meant to show how each lesson in a phase connects and what are the key learning objectives, materials, and activities for each lesson. We also give some estimates of how long we think each activity in a lesson will take. The beginning of each lesson shows up like this. Again, it makes it very easy to locate it if you're looking at a set of slide thumbnails. And it reminds you of the question of the overarching phase, the learning objective of each specific lesson, and then the materials and homework that you'll need for that specific lesson. We try to begin each lesson with a do now for your students to complete as they join the class. You'll see here that this do now is designed for students to do individually, as I can tell from the single icon of a student in the corner, and the instructions for the activity are to be projected on the screen or board, which I can tell from the eye. You don't need to do things in this way. They're just recommendations from the design team based on what we were envisioning when we created the materials. In this case, because it's the first slide of the unit, we have a welcome back slide. If we're working with your classroom, this is when we would introduce ourselves to students. Or if this is something you're doing on your own, it can be a reminder or description about this project and what it's going to be about. You'll see here that this slide is meant to be projected to all students to look at as you're talking. Our units also include at-a-glance slides for students themselves, so they know what to expect from the unit and how ideas connect together. Here's the at-a-glance slide for the climate change unit for students. You'll see that it corresponds to the phases that we created for you as a teacher, but describes them in ways that are hopefully motivating for students. Then you can get started with the activity. Each slide corresponds to an activity that was highlighted on that at-a-glance page for teachers. And overall, each lesson is designed to take 35 to 40 minutes per class period. Again, when activities have a physical worksheet involved, you can download that using this button in the left-hand corner, or browse and find the corresponding Word document in your download of the curriculum. Sometimes, homework is included as part of our activities and lessons. When this is the case, you can download a corresponding page or worksheet to assign. You'll also have a slide like this one to remind students of what the homework is and how to complete it. Okay, there are the basics for navigating the curricular slides. We hope this gives you a good start for starting to look through the materials. Again, these are designed for you to adapt as needed, so please don't be afraid to get in there and adjust. Enjoy, and we'll see you soon.